Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to listen to me talk today. My name's Ella. My PhD is on designing a diagnostic test for use in low resource settings. I work in a research group that we all do a similar thing. We're all designing a diagnostic test for use in low resource settings, but we all do it in a slightly different way. So we all have different diseases that we focus on, for example. So what I'm going to do today is to take you guys into our research group, and we're going to get you to design a test as though you were one of us. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to get you to decide upon your disease. Then you're going to decide on what type of test you want to choose. You're going to test your test in the lab, and then you're going to test your test in the field. And what I really want to highlight here is that creativity is central to science. So, firstly, we're going to choose our disease. So I'm going to explain a few things about each of these diseases. Then I'm going to give you 5 seconds to have a think about which disease you would pick. And I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. So, firstly, we have malaria. So half of the world's population is at risk of contracting malaria. And it gives flu-like symptoms, severe flu-like symptoms, often leading to death, especially in children. However, there are currently pretty good diagnostics for it. They can always be improved, but they are available for use in low resource settings. Next, we have COVID. We all know what COVID does to us, and we know that it has affected everyone in the world. However, again, as we also probably know, there's pretty good diagnostics. The COVID home tests, which can be used anywhere without a lab. So maybe we don't need diagnostics for that anymore. Finally, we have human papillomavirus, or HPV. So human papillomavirus causes cervical cancer, which is the 4th most common cancer in women worldwide, and there's not currently any diagnostic test for it to be used in low resource settings. However, there are comparatively fewer deaths from it compared to something like malaria. So, I'm going to give you 5 seconds, then I'm going to say the diseases again, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hands. Okay, hands up for malaria. Hands up for COVID. And hands up for human papillomavirus. Cool, so you guys have clearly read the program and know that's also what I study. So, yes, I'm doing HPV. So what are we going to do next? We're going to choose our type of test. So, firstly, we have a PCR test. So, a PCR test is a type of test that takes a small amount of DNA and turns it into a large amount of DNA. And then we measure that increase in DNA. It's very common and it's been used for decades. We understand it really well. Maybe some of you here have even worked on it. However, it's not very good for use in low resource settings because you need expensive equipment which increases and decreases the temperature of the reaction. Next, we have LAMP. So LAMP is a type of isothermal amplification. So what that means is it's basically the same as PCR, but instead of having different temperatures, you can just hold it at one temperature. And that means you can use a heater or something that you can easily take to a low resource setting. However, it's new, so potentially it's more risky, we don't understand it quite so well. Finally, we could have something new. This is super risky, but potentially really high reward. Maybe it's better than anything we have at the moment, but obviously there's the risk that we don't come up with anything, which would be pretty bad. Okay, again, 5 seconds, have a think. Okay, hands up for PCR. Hands up for LAMP. Hands up for something new. Okay, good luck to all of you. I chose LAMP. But maybe I'm rethinking myself now. Right, so next we're going to test our test in the lab. Now, obviously this is not a lab, so we're not actually going to do that. But what I am going to do is show you some of my data, so you kind of get an idea of what it would look like. So, on the right, we have a graph, which is the output from a LAMP reaction. So remember, LAMP takes a small amount of DNA and turns it into a large amount of DNA. So, if there's HPV DNA present in the sample, you're going to see the graph increase from low to high. And that's what we've seen with some of the lines. If there's no DNA there, we're just going to get a flat line. So for example, the pink line indicates that there was no or a very low amount of DNA. Now, the lateral flow tests, you can see on the other side, we all know how these work. One line is negative, 2 lines is positive. So the colours that they're surrounded by equate to the line. So you can see that the one that's got 2 lines on the lateral flow test, so that's the positive, the purple, that is the same sample as the line on the graph that has gone up. So what we can tell from this is that the results are aligned. So this assay has worked for a high amount of DNA, but it hasn't worked, well, we haven't got a positive result for a low amount of DNA, which is great. That's exactly what we want. So next, we're going to choose where we do our field testing. So again, you guys can have a think. So our first option would be Scotland. The thing about Scotland, obviously we're here, so it's immediate, it's cheap, and we're not going to use air miles by flying somewhere expensive. However, it's not representative of the place that we're intending for our test to be used in, because we have labs here in Scotland. So things like temperature, for example, might be different. So then maybe instead we could test our test in an intended country of use. So one example for that would be Senegal. So in Senegal, the temperature would be what we would expect, for example, and other things like contamination might also be present. The other benefit with Senegal is that it's also where we might be manufacturing our tests, so that might be good in terms of production. Finally, we have Uganda. All the same benefits as Senegal, except they also speak English there, so maybe that's another benefit. Okay, 5 seconds, have a think. Okay, hands up for Scotland. A few. Patriotic few, perhaps. Hands up for Senegal. Hands up for Uganda. Cool. Remember that. I actually don't know where I'm doing mine yet. So, where does that leave us? As I told you, I chose HPV and LAMP. Did anyone in the room choose the same as me? Okay, a few. Do I need to change? Maybe I do, we'll see. But the plan is, you'll take this swab, or someone will take this swab, put it into a vagina, swirl it around, put it into this cassette, like this, and then put this cassette onto a heater. Leave it for 30 minutes, the LAMP reaction will take place, and then turn it upside down. So maybe you can see here, it's also highlighted on the board, there's a lateral flow strip. So if you get 2 lines, it's a positive, 1 line, negative. So then of course, I'm going to have to field test it. And that's where you guys come in. Because you all thought that you were here to listen to me talk. But actually, you're just data. As I said, I don't know where I'm going to be doing it. But you guys have told me it's probably Uganda. And this, for me, is what I want to highlight to you about creativity. I have used my creativity to harness your creativity to input a suggestion into my scientific research. So, thank you so much for listening.